welcome to a spoiler talk for Wonder Woman. If you have not yet seen Wonder Woman, check it out, come back later, and then watch this. If you have seen Wonder Woman, hi, welcome, and let's just get into it. So one thing I really talked about in my spoiler-free review that I really liked was the way Patty Jenkins managed to combine the myth and the more fantastical elements and the more realistic elements. I really liked how Steve Trevor would bring in the aspect that there's a war going on, and the First World War, there's like 25 million people dying, men, women, and children are dying, things are really, really bad, and Dr. Poison is creating a chemical gas that is going to do a lot more harm along with a General Ludendorff. And so I must go back and see that this notebook, which I've stolen of hers, gets to the British Commission so that they can do something about it ASAP. And Diana's world is about, hey, maybe this whole war is Ares' fault, because Ares is the god of war, as you know, and when he was cast out by Zeus, he went into exile. But Amazonians in Themyscira knew that there was a day coming when he would return. And so Diana believes that this is the day he has come back, and the war is being caused because of him. And she goes off with Steve Trevor because she believes that she might have a chance to finally stop Ares in the process. And Steve is trying to understand Diana's perspective on things. He's trying to really make sense of the idea that a god is responsible for all of this destruction and death. And Diana's trying to understand why men would go down this path, and looking at the horrors of war and people who are injured, and sometimes generals who are not willing to send troops into war to protect the country. And you have all of this made into one cohesive story, and I really liked that about this film. It was definitely one of the more interesting aspects for me. I really like the scene where she's in the meeting and the general says that we can't send troops into the front because there are German troops over there, plus we're in the middle of signing an armistice, so there's no way we can just go into a fight at this moment. And Diana loses it. She has this explosion where she just starts yelling that this is not what people do. Like, you know, from where I am, soldiers go into battle. They do what needs to be done. They make sacrifices that need to be made, and you should be ashamed of yourself for not doing the same thing. And that was a great moment. I really liked that speech, and a lot of cheers were given to that speech when I was watching it at the first screening. It gave you a sense of her character and what she wanted to do, and I liked the fact that she was a very strong character. She wasn't exactly dependent on anyone. And I think what I really liked is that everybody's equal in this movie. Every time there's a man on screen, like Steve or any of the other crew members, including Sammy or Charlie or the Chief, they all have something to contribute. It's not like they're pushed to the sidelines because of Diana's awesomeness and amazing moments of film. It is the fact that they're doing something, and so is Diana. In the finale, Diana is fighting Ares, but the other guys are trying to figure out how to stop the plane with gas from going into London and killing so many people. And that, of course, also connects into the idea of bringing in the fantasy and bringing in the real life stuff and merging the two together. I also really like the relationships that were built between characters, especially Chris Pine and Gal Gadot, because I really like Diana and Steve's relationship. The way it starts off, the way it ends, and I like the conversations that they have. There's a great conversation they have on a boat about reproductive biology, and Diana says that, you know, why don't average men sleep or something? And he's like, no, people do sleep. I'm just like, and she says, do you not sleep with women? Or he's like, no, I sleep with women. I sleep a marriage thing, you don't otherwise just sleep, like that. And he's just stuttering like this, and Diana's like, so you won't sleep with me unless we're married. So he's like, no, I'll sleep with you. I can come to sleep over there. If you want me to come sleep over there, I'll come sleep. And it was the perfect personification of like an awkward first date conversation, but it was done so well, and it really fit the character, because now you're leaving Themyscira. This is the conversation they're having while they're on the way to London. And this is where you're entering Steve's world, and Diana is getting to see it. I love the scene where she meets Steve's secretary, Etta Candy, and Diana's like, what's secretary? I do whatever he tells me to do and go wherever he wants me to go. And she's like, well, from where I'm from, that's called slavery. And I really like those moments. I like the part where she's being shown dresses, and Steve's just like, try it on. And she's like, okay, and she starts taking off her coat, and is like, no. And she innocently puts it back on with a smile on her face, like, I really like those naive little moments where it's like, oh, I'm not doing this to make a joke. I'm doing this because I genuinely have no idea how you people operate and what the hell is a trial room. I also really like the scene where Steve teaches Diana how to dance after that big battlefield sequence, which we'll talk about in a second. I really like that scene. I really like the conversation they have in that scene as Steve is imagining a world without war. Get up in the morning, eat breakfast, read the paper, go to work, get married and stuff. I don't know what it's like because I don't have that life. And the war in this film is shown well because I love the way Diana just charges through the battlefield, blocking bullet after bullet, overturning trucks, going through buildings, and just beating the hell out of guys. There's a big action sequence for each act of this film. The first act is the sequence between the Amazonians and the Germans who are coming in because Steve landed over there, which is a really good scene. The second is, of course, the battlefield scene in the middle of Belgium where you have Diana becoming Wonder Woman for the first time, and then you have the finale, which let's talk about. That is something which I discussed in my review as the one moment in the film where I think I had the most problem with because it does get a little iffy at that point. What happens is Ares is revealed, and Ares is not Danny Houston, it's not General Ludendorff as the film continuously tries to hint because of the gas that he keeps inhaling. It's actually David Thewlis, who is this British gentleman, Sir Patrick, and he comes in and he's like, well, my plan was to like recuperate for many centuries now and to get my powers back, and so I kept having people do my bidding in this way, and after a while I didn't even have to do anything anymore. Men started to do this all by themselves, and that men are the real enemy here, that despite whatever you're gonna do, if you want to fight me, Diana, you can, but at the end they're the real enemy, not me. And Steve tries to say that in a way because you have this beautiful moment with him after Diana kills Ludendorff and the gas has been released on the village that they saved in the battlefield, and the people over there are dead. And she looks at Steve and says, the war should have stopped. You know, when Ares dies, the war is supposed to end, but the war is still going on. People are still doing this evil stuff. Why is this happening? And he says that maybe it's not just about one person. You know, maybe there is more than one person to blame. And he says, maybe I'm to blame. And she says, no, you're not to blame. And he's like, maybe I am. Maybe we are all to blame. But I really like that moment. It gives him a sense of humanity, and it gives all these characters a sense of understanding for a moment, that there is so much more at stake than just the fact that maybe there's a god involved that is doing all of this crazy stuff and is causing people to turn on each other and kill each other, and she wants to bring peace to this. Of course, when Ares is revealed, it's kind of like, oh yeah, he is in a way responsible, but he's also saying the same thing. It's like, I didn't even have to do anything after a point. Humans themselves did whatever they had to do. Again, keeping the two merged together. But the end gets a little too CGI heavy for its own good. There's a lot of special effects and a lot of stuff that starts flying around, and it's pretty extensive, and I don't hate it. It's not like I was detesting it for any point of time. I do think, however, that it is a little inconsistent with what we've seen in the movie so far, and it gets a little generic at points. It's like, oh, we've seen that in some action movies before. However, it is well handled, though. It is handled in a pretty great manner, and there are some very emotional moments sprinkled out during that scene, which I really appreciated. And that's not entirely to do with the fact that Ares himself was that more CGI-esque character, so you needed the CGI. There was also the fact that Gal Gadot, at the time of filming that scene, was pregnant, and they had to make some adjustments around her because of the fact that she was carrying a baby. Now, I usually don't speculate before watching movies, but I do sometimes have some ideas on what could happen. And in this case, I went in with the idea that there is a chance that Steve Trevor could possibly die at the end. And the fact that they do go ahead with showing him dying was pretty ballsy, actually. I really thought that was a very interesting move on their part. I do love the moment, though, where he looks back and he's in the plane with all the chemical bombs, and he just laughs for a moment before shooting the timer, and there's an elongated moment before he shoots the timer where he's just looking, and he has this look on his face, the look of, I wish I had more time with Diana, because you find out in the time that Diana couldn't hear because of the explosions, he says that, I wish we had more time together and I love you. And that's what makes her overcome Ares' power, and it's a really beautiful, touching moment, and the score is blasting beautifully in this entire moment because the soundtrack is pretty amazing, actually. As explained in the movie, Diana was created from clay by her mother, Hippolyta, and brought to life by Zeus, and so that kind of makes her the daughter of Zeus in some ways. And basically she's given the duty that if Ares were to ever come back, you are the god killer. You are the one who is going to stop him whenever he does return. And there's a sword which is supposedly called the god killer, and that's what's always referred to as the god killer. And so when she tries to stab Ares with it, it just disintegrates. And he looks at her and he says something in Remus Lupin fashion in kind of ways. He's like, "Oh, my dear child, that's not the god killer. You are." And he's trying to have her unlock her full power, and when Steve does get killed, she kind of goes into berserk mode. She starts taking out German soldiers one by one, and it's just nuts, this crazy scene which is happening in front of you. And then she picks up the tank, and she's about to attack, and she looks at Dr. Poison, who's on the ground over there, and she's about to kill Dr. Poison with it. Ares is like, "Do it, crush her, you have to, you see what she has done." And that's when she looks back at the moment with Steve, when she realizes that, as bad as she is, that she was still being controlled by Ares. So in the end, Ares is still the big villain over here, and she throws the tank away. She's like, love is greater, and I will always believe in the human race, even if you don't. The problem is you stop believing. And she kills Ares in the most awesome way possible, Gauntlet style. And this is what redeems the finale for me in terms of the more CGI heavy aspects that were being offered before that. I really like the way it kind of culminates together. And that's my spoiler review on Wonder Woman. This was a ton of fun to watch. I didn't want to talk scene by scene about everything. I did want to talk about a few more things in detail. So guys, Wonder Woman, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know. Is there something more you want to talk about? Leave it and let's talk about it. You guys are the best. Thank you so much as always for watching. If you like this, please subscribe, and I will see you guys later.